Welcome to the greatest show on earth, Into His Courts. I'm your man, P. Skip. My crew is with me, T. Mac.
Hola.
Chili Will.
Gracias, amigo.
What's up, y'all? Hey, listen. I'm going to read Ecclesiastes, and then we're going to get into some things. Ecclesiastes chapter 3 talks about seasons. It says, for everything there is a season, a time for every activity under the heavens, like March Madness. It says a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time for harvest, a time to kill, a time to be healed, a time to tear down, and a time to build up, a time to cry and a time to laugh, a time to grieve.
Going on in March Madness. There ain't that much laughing.
But here's the thing. It's a time to grieve and a time to dance.
Oh,
And it's big dance time.
All right.
March Madness, baby.
All right.
You know, here in Milwaukee, we're kind of sad. Actually, the whole state of Wisconsin, because none of our teams did well. None of them. And we really got to talk about, how bad Marquette got laid a 53-piece on their head by Jamont.
What was the Marquette? Was a what seed? And what was the seed of the
I think it was 5 and 12. Marquette 5. Murray State was 12.
It was a 12 seed, and they got danced on by a 12 seed.
They did.
That was a time to cry, wasn't it?
Hey, he almost single-handedly outscored Marquette by himself.
Who was he?
Jamont. J.A. Mont is this cat from Murray State. Probably the number 2 pick in the draft.
Or 3 behind R.J. Barrett.
Really?
Yeah,
Zion,
either 2 or 3.
R.J. and then J. Mont.
I mean, this cat, a guard that can leap out the gym, a decent jumper, athletic as all
Why is he
get
at
out.
Murray State?
Because nowadays
late
you can
bloomer.
go pro from any school you want to go to.
I'm saying, but if you're that good, why did some of the blue bloods and some of them big schools not
Well,
recruit?
part
Why
of what
did he end
happened
up-
with him was he was kind of a late bloomer, and early on, when he was maybe like a freshman or sophomore in high school, he was playing like some pickup game or some AAU, some pickup game. One of the assistant coaches for Murray State saw him, saw the talent early, talked to the coach, saying, "Hey, there's this kid." Might be kind of nice. We might want to go ahead and get on him. And as they began to court him to come to Murray State, they were the most persistent. And him
And
being
early,
who he was.
They were interested early.
Exactly.
So
So
he-
he was
so
like,
he
I'm going to
had
go
some
ahead and show my.
loyalty.
Exactly.
The kid got some loyalty.
That's how that played out.
Oh, that's good.
And he ended up with a great enough team, a good enough team that he got on the big stage. His draft stock went up tremendously. Because who's to say he would have been number 3 had he went to a different school?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But good jumper, decent jumper, nice handles. As a matter of fact, he plays point guard.
Okay.
Point guard, but he can shoot like a 2.
Yeah, and he's only a sophomore. I mean, his claim to fame has kind of come even prior to the tournament. He was doing some major nasty stuff on folks on social media. A lot of social media fame he had prior to the tournament. And the tournament question was, hey, you're kind of a smaller school, Division I AA or mid-major. How do you stack up against major Division I competition? And that game against Marquette was essentially his coming out party with the triple-double that he gave him and a smash on one of our, the 6'9" Hauser kid and, jumped over him.
So after that, he said, you tell me.
Right.
How do I stack up? You tell me.
How you like me now?
Because Marquette was
Show
like
me
ranked
the
in
money.
country.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
ranked like 20th in the country.
Marquette had a top 10 ranking at some point in the season before they had that late season slide. And, although it's not totally unusual for a 5 to beat a 12, it was an upset because people were thinking Marquette was going to come back and regain some of their, their magic that they had in the season.
Because they got a guy on their team who's a top
Marcus Howard. Marcus Howard, yeah. Shorter player, but the Big East Player of the Year this year. Yeah, Big East Player of the Year.
I don't follow college basketball as much as I do the pros.
Gotcha.
I figure if they good, I'll see them in the NBA.
Right.
So I don't want to waste my time watching them in college when they and everybody talk about the competition of college and all that. But to be totally honest with you, I just don't like that the kids don't get paid.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I don't like that everybody making money off these kids and the kids don't get paid. So instead of me squawking about it, I just don't, I don't support it. I just don't support that at all.
That's totally understandable. I was watching the game the other night. Matter of fact, last night with my son, and one of the things that he had asked, because they would show cutting in and out of going to commercial, show the players. It was the Duke game last night. That nail biter that they had against Virginia Tech, and they showed the band, they showed the stands, etc. And my son, who's 18, asked, "Hey, Dad, are there any other black students that go to the schools other than the players?" And it was a pretty, kind of poignant observation, because for most of the major schools, those particularly I'm talking about football and basketball that are in tournaments, the perennial top 25, top 30, they don't necessarily have a lot of ethnic minorities, African Americans and others at the school. You can have a school student population of 25 to 50,000, and you can have, less than 2,000 or 3,000 of those students being, students of color. And when you break down color, not just from Asian, Latino, African American, when you talk about extrapolating just the African American members of the student body, outside of the sports, you don't have a lot of the students. And with the coaches being paid, to your point, Will, of the exploitation, TV contracts. I think CBS, paid, I don't know, $9 or $10 billion for the rights to broadcast the NCAA tournament, not to mention the amount of money that the schools get for every round they advance. I know in football, just a few seasons ago, each of the Rose Bowl participating teams got 14 to 17 million apiece. And the players can become, or be ruled ineligible for, signing a jersey of somebody. It's like, hold on, man.
I got a text message from my son, and the text message said, some guy, son did the math. He said, my son and I just did some math. If the NCAA paid 20% of its annual NCAA tournament broadcast revenue prorated to every Division I college basketball player on a team roster, each player would make something like $40,000 a year.
Wow. At just 20%.
At just 20%.
Wow.
So that's one of the reasons why, I don't want to be a party pooper or any of that. But I just think that, the kids should get paid. They should be put in a trust fund. They should have something like, okay, if you graduate, you get this money. Since the education part is so important, a lot of those kids, when they're not eligible to play basketball, they don't even finish their degree.
Correct.
They could put some money on the side and say, hey, if you finish your degree, you're entitled to this money. If you don't get it.
Yeah.
Since the degree is so important.
Or
but the whole
also,
idea, I'm sorry, Pat,
No,
the whole idea of somebody getting the money,
Exactly.
and whoever getting the money ain't making no free throws and ain't blocking no shots.
Correct.
I just don't like that.
I think
Correct.
the other thing is, to add to that, what about some insurance for me if I get injured? And not only can I not play I can't even play for you no more.
Right.
Is my scholarship still guaranteed? And is there some sort of insurance policy? Am I insured by Lloyd's of London or something that, that y'all pay for, but my family's the beneficiary of it, that, I get, $500,000 or something if something happens to me.
Look at the kid that got hurt last night for Auburn. Their star player got hurt.
Exactly.
And what if he can't play in the pros? Where is he hurt
If
to
his career.
Yeah, his career is over. Now the school made all that money off of him, and he don't get anything.
Yeah.
That just, I don't know how this is deemed fair.
It's not. It's exploitation, and it's terrible. And if we want to be ultra cynical, African Americans, with going even all the way back to a part of history, not the totality of it, but even coming over, the transatlantic slave trade, when money was made off of black bodies, there was no wage being paid, but America's wealth was built from that foundation.
Oh, yeah.
This right here, in the most cynical of viewpoints, is akin to that, where the bodies of predominantly, African American folks are making money for others, and they don't get a chance to get any compensation that's notable. Now, relative to the insurance piece, I don't know if it's universal.
Let me say this piece. So The cotton field is now the football field.
Or basketball court.
Okay, got it.
Yes, sir.
Got
That's exactly the point I was trying to make. So
Got
your interpretation was spot on.
Okay.
Bullseye on that one. Relative to the insurance, I don't know if it's universal or not, but intermittently, there are certain individuals, depending upon what their stock is in college. Zion Williamson, for example, has an $8 million policy, a loss of income policy. So if he were to get hurt, if that shoe situation that took place a few weeks back against North Carolina, if his injury would have been career-threatening, he would have been able to cash that out. I know Willis McGahee, who played running back for the Miami Hurricanes a few years back when they lost in I think it was the Sugar Bowl or the Rose Bowl against Ohio State, he also got injured, but he had an insurance policy as well. So depending upon where you are as far as your stature as a college basketball player, there have been individual policies, but to your point, I think that should be something that's universal. But if you are on the squad, whether you are a starter, an All-American, or you just are a team player, that is something that should be definitely looked at given the amount of revenues these players bring into these institutions year in, year out.
I would agree with you. My question then becomes, okay, well, who's the beneficiary of that insurance, and who's paying a premium on it? Is the school paying it because you're getting the benefits?
Well, that's
of
the
it?
only person who can pay it is the school. The school would be responsible because the school is, like you said, they benefiting from it, from the services of these individuals.
But the question then becomes, is that violation of the NC2As because that's extra payment? That's extra benefit.
But the NC2As can make up their own rules. They can change their rules and make the rules accommodate this.
And along that very line of them having the autonomy to create what they want to, just like they can give scholarships, which is of some sort of pecuniary value, they could also do a line item or have something memorialized in writing that talks about this insurance piece as well, with certain guidelines and compliance that, makes it amateur-esque still, so that the player maintains their amateur status.
Or they can do what they're doing now, keep the money for themselves.
We're trying to come positive.
Because no one
there
is
should be a time to laugh.
We're talking about alternative options.
This is a faith-based sports talk show, all right?
Yes, sir.
And from the point of view of being Christ-like, this is wrong.
It is.
This is wrong. Nobody can justify this being right. This is wrong.
Yeah.
But the NCAA saying we don't care about being wrong. We'll be wrong at the 50-yard line at halftime of the Super Bowl.
Right.
As long as we get to keep this money.
There's a couple of scriptures that talk about, the laborer is worthy of his hire. The other one is that if a man does not work, he should not eat. If the students are coming to practice, putting in the hard work, risking, limb and everything, literally, they are the ones that are the laborers. So they definitely need to be paid. The other thing that adds insult to injury, I know this was the case as recently as last couple years. I don't know if it's still true now, but I believe it is that when you are a scholarship player, you are barred from even having employment. You can't get a job. So if you are coming and you don't have a silver spoon and you're hard scrabbled, working class, or lower into this university, you need some bread. I mean, I'm talking about not even getting no rims for your car. I'm talking going to the movies
or
to go
get some
see
deodorant for your body.
Exactly. You don't have any income and the school is raking in millions. That's just, it's out of order. Like you said, there's no excuse for it, man. There should be an outrage. There should be protests. I mean, it is definitely out of order.
See, this show right here can get real deep. And you know what? I think I'm going to put my blinker on and ask Pastor Skip to let's turn the corner on this one, all right?
Hold on. Before we do that, though.
Okay.
Before we do that, do you remember back when, who was it, Ed O'Bannon?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
When he was trying to get a group of guys to sue.
Yeah, class action lawsuit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
He won it.
But nothing happened.
He won the class action lawsuit. He did win it.
But nothing happened.
Yeah, I don't know the details on it.
And I remember there was also a time recently where they were talking about unionizing.
Yes.
The students were talking about unionizing. But I think what has happened is we need to start changing what we're calling them. We're saying they're student athletes, but they're not. They're athlete students. That's the reality of it, because your grades can slip and they can work around that. But your scoring slips and you're gone.
You out.
You're gone.
There's no loyalty.
And that's the reality of it.
And if you are a senior or a junior and some hot shot freshman come in, you know,
Hey,
I've
Clemson
been
football.
giving 3 years to this institute. Now this blue chipper guy come in, and my scholarship is no longer honored, or I'm on the bench.
Right.
Where's the loyalty in this?
And he came here because of the numbers I've been putting up to get notoriety for us to get to this level.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, because the reality of it, blue chippers only go to a school that they know is they're going to be seen on TV. They like the offense,
Right.
They or the defense. They
Yeah.
like the
They got the
like coach.
facilities.
They got the
Exposure.
right,
They got
exposure.
the exposure.
And so obviously the people before them is the ones that got that
Yeah.
exposure. For
Yes.
them.
Yes.
But now I got the new hotness. You the old Benz, the new Benz that came out.
Pastor Skip, like, we need to hit these blinkers, man.
So
This
in
is
the
a
midst
deep
of
show. We can get real passionate, and emotional. Like, let's
Right.
hit the blinkers on this.
yeah, let's do that. So
Okay.
so check this out. Again, March Madness, y'all. There has been some serious bracket busting that's been going on.
Man.
You know, how many number one seeds are left? Virginia and what?
There's
Virginia.
three. Everybody but UNC, I think. Gonzaga, Duke, and Virginia are still alive.
They're still in there. And so, well, that's good, but it doesn't look like all three of them going to be in the Final Four. It looks like there could be some. This is what I love about March Madness. Any given day, anybody can beat anybody. You have one bad day and you're done for the season.
Yeah, or someone get injured.
Right,
Someone get the flu.
Right.
Somebody have stomach poisoning.
right. Or you have
Poison.
go on one great streak and end up winning.
Yeah, some guy who averaged 2 points a game had 12 points last night was the
Right.
difference in the game.
And
Yeah.
so, you know, Duke to me looks very, 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 very vulnerable.
Agreed.
It seems like the last two games, you know, if it weren't for bad calls, they would not have won.
They escaped.
You know, like,
Everybody
What-
love to hate Duke, don't they?
well, they're very,
People don't like Duke. They want
Right,
Duke.
right.
Pastor, do you want Duke to lose?
let's just put it this way.
Where those blinkers? Where those blinkers? Where those blinkers?
I'm not saying I want Duke to lose. I just don't want them to win. we'll put it that way.
Okay.
But honestly, it's not that I don't like Duke. It's the fact that from coming up and the Christian Laettner errors and all, there's been such an elitist attitude, mindset about Duke that's made me go, anybody who could smash them, I'm so excited about it. But talking about last night, there was some very, and that's always in every game. There's very questionable calls. Like, for instance, last night, LeBron, help me.
See, that's the Freudian slip. Zion Williamson.
Right.
But because it puts you in the mindset of arguably one of the greatest players ever, LeBron James, that's what you was thinking about. Go ahead and finish.
You know, there's a great phrase I could put in there, and it comes from an amazing TV show that goes like this: boom, 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 boom. He is so not LeBron. And what's really crazy is they're starting to say now more and more NBA players, better college players, and even coaches are starting to say his game is going to take some time to really translate and be really effective in the league because there's so many holes in it, but we talked about that once before.
Yeah.
But, for instance, last night, he got a star call. And that is, he clearly did a wipe away, a clear out, slap the guy in the face.
Clear in the head.
Right, which is, first of all, any shots that anybody gets a shoulder and above, that's a flagrant. Two, you know, when you're chicken winging somebody, as long as it's close, they let it go. But he did a full out arm, you know, like this cat was breaststroking.
It was an ostrich wing.
Right, for real.
Not a chicken.
Oh yeah, he did a
right.
full condor. You know, and so, and the foul was called against the player. And the player really didn't have any contact other than that shot he got in the face.
Yeah, and they reviewed the play, and the call stood. I'll give you that. That was a bad call, a missed call.
And it was a missed call at a very pivotal point that had that ball went the other way, your brackets would have been busted more.
There's no guarantee, because at the end of the game, Virginia Tech still had a chance to send it to overtime with that same player who was fire in the first half, and he had a gimme, which was a brilliantly alley-oop play, an inbounds play off a timeout, and he missed it.
Just for the record, who is that coach?
Buzz Williams.
He came from where?
Marquette University.
Man, here we go,
by way of
Milwaukee.
New Orleans.
We're all over the place.
See there?
Hey, that was a heck of a play by Coach Williams.
Yeah.
Man, that was a heck of a play.
That was live. So they've had opportunities, and I think that one of the things that I heard growing up was, you have breaks, and I will give you yesteryear Duke. They were, just blatant, favoritism by the refs. I'll give you that. I think, though, in recent years, more of their success, to me, has been because of the caliber of players being better than what they had back before. Back from the championships they won with Okafor, and the starting point guard, Trey Jones' brother, was a starting point guard on their last championship team. They've had some players going to the NBA. They've just been really, really studs. Matter of fact, these, case in point, their two star players this year, Zion Williamson, one we just talked about, and R.J. Barrett, are projected to be the first and second picks, respectively, in this upcoming, draft.
The first and second pick in the NBA draft. How you gonna lose in the NCAA tournament?
Because it's called March Madness for a reason.
But I'm saying
the best team don't always win.
You're gonna be 1 and 2 in the NBA draft, which means because the NBA draft ain't just out of college. It's overseas, pro leagues, it's all over the globe.
It's a global draft.
It's a global thing. So you're the best two people on planet Earth, and you can't have your team win the NCAA, which is like.
Well, they're still alive so far.
I know, but they done escaped two.
Yeah,
they should have been done.
But you talk about last year's number 1 seed in Virginia, first time in the history of the NCAA.
That's who I want.
Lost to a 16 seed. Now they might not have had the top 2 projected players in the NBA, but y'all the number 1 seed, went 30-1 on the year, and you lose to the number 16 seed the first time ever. Because anything can happen.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So you
gotta
play the game.
I want Auburn.
You gotta play the game.
I want Blues Pearl. You know why?
Because he was here in Milwaukee.
UW, Milwaukee on the map again.
That coaching tree just
wait.
Pearl. I want Blues Pearl.
But don't forget, Virginia.
Tony Bennett went to UW Green Bay
from Wisconsin.
Exactly. And his dad, Dick Bennett, coached the Badgers.
Right. Our fingerprint is all over the place. And my youngest brother played with Tony Bennett in AAU.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so,
Tony Bennett is a heck of a coach too, and his dad was a heck of a coach. Yes.
And I'm loving these younger coaches are starting to understand that I don't necessarily have to have a system. I just need to be able to coach what I'm given.
Exactly.
And so my system this year may be we running and gunning. My system next year may be looking at my player personnel. We got to set a lot of picks. Pass, giving goals. Right. That's how we're going to win games. And I love these younger coaches that have the ability to adjust according to these players versus a lot of the older coaches. And again, nothing wrong with them. They're systems coaches. And I need players to fit into my system versus I have to adjust to what I get. Right. Because if I get the number 1 player, or I'm not going after the number 1 player because he doesn't fit in my system.
Right. Well, coaching is, it's a big part of it. We see that all the time. The play that was called last night was an outstanding
brilliant.
It worked like a genie in a bottle. But guess what? Couldn't execute it at the end, and that player is going to be known for the rest of his life about missing that play.
It's the guy who missed it.
It wasn't that the same situation with the game before that? With Johnny Dawkins' son?
Yeah. Against Central Florida. Yeah. 2 of them. The missed shot, that was a gimme. Another questionable call, though, could have been called there. That wasn't called, so a good point there.
And then the tip.
But the tip in also.
Right, that it rolled around and fell off.
And came out.
But that's life. Sometimes you the windshield, and sometimes you the bug. That's how it go.
Right.
Because if either one of them would have been successful at that, well, one of them wouldn't have won the game. The other one would have won, right?
Yep, the Central Florida, that
The
would have been
Central
the game
Florida would
winner.
have won the game. The other one would have tied the game, so they still could have lost. But if they tie the game there and win the game, now you go down in history a whole different way.
Exactly.
You know, so that's life. It's ups and downs. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, sometimes it's a rain out.
And how do you bounce back from those situations where you are so close, you went on a nice run, had a long season, you've been faithful to your craft, you've been faithful to doing the right things, and now you have a sudden situation that either you deliver or you don't, and you don't deliver in the moment. How do you bounce back from that?
I think all of us have had those. Playing. For me, it made me hungrier. You know, it was like, dude, it's like you've always had hamburger, and all of a sudden you get a real good steak. It's like, bro, what I got to do to get me another steak? I got to get me a better job so I can start getting on this steak budget, whatever. And I think, especially an athlete that plays on a high level, disappointment and pain is some of the best teachers in the world.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know, you learned how to treat your wife right because some girl broke your heart. You know, you learned how to fight because somebody busted your nose. Pain is a teacher.
Pain
you know,
is
and so
it's the universal teacher.
Yes.
It's understood.
Yes.
It's the language that we all speak.
right. You know, you learn how to stop acting up because you got your tail whooped.
Oh, yeah.
From your mom or your dad.
Yeah, pain is universal.
You know, and so I think these hits, these lessons, and I tell people all the time, I never lose, I just learn.
Yeah.
And I think that's what these cats did. I don't think they lost. I think we learned what it takes to win on this level. And these are life lessons. These are life lessons that when I go into the corporate world, listen, I can't come in there average because average people get fired, get laid off, don't get
promoted.
hired.
Don't get
Get promoted.
Yeah, get stuck.
But the above average, those who put in the work, those who do above and beyond, they get promoted, they get partnerships, they get
Wage increase.
They look
titles.
for, right. They're recruited by other companies.
Yes.
All that happens for putting in the work. The workman is worthy of his hire, and that's the way these guys got to look at this. Listen, to me, college ball is really, and even college period, is really a discipline thing.
Okay.
Businesses are trying to see, are you disciplined enough?
It's a test. It's a testing
Right.
ground.
Are you disciplined enough to see that you can work for me because you got discipline?
Yes.
Because my job, I'm paying you based upon your discipline and your knowledge.
Yeah.
I'm not paying you your discipline, your knowledge, and your work ethic.
Yeah.
And if you have those three, I can work with you, and I love to have you on my team.
Right.
I can teach you the rest of this.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you got that go-get-it in you, if you got some knowledge in you, and you willing to say no to some stuff that will stop you from getting what you want,
Yeah.
I need you on my team.
Yeah. I would have to say, when you start talking about how this is going to impact players and how it impact players moving forward, one of the key things to this is the foundation that you have around you.
Yeah.
If you're a disenfranchised individual and have been most of your life, you don't really know who to turn to.
Right.
But if you are spiritually foundated, you have a family, you know, you're in the community, the school, there are a lot of people who you have leaned on throughout your life when you had crisis, because this ain't the first crisis that you've had.
Right.
You will go to those people, and those people will be there for you, and you'll be able to put this in perspective and move on. My concern is the people that don't have this, and that the only people they have around them is because they're able to hit a baseball or shoot a basketball or catch a football. And when you can't do those things, those people become a lot more feeble and a lot less sincere, because they really don't love you anyway.
Right.
Yeah, but if you have love in your life and structure around you, this is just a hiccup.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I agree. Hey, listen, we're getting ready to close, but we said we were going to talk about the Brewers. So, Tim, what do you think the Brewers season is going to look? How many wins do you think they're going to get this year?
101, and we will get a World Series berth and maybe a repeat of our MVP, Yelich. Thank you.
All right.
How about you, Will? What do you think?
You know what? Baseball is so long that I don't really start thinking about it until close to the playoffs time. You know, so right now they play every day. You know, so it's hard for me to be passionate about them playing every day. So I start thinking about it probably around late August, early September.
Okay. Me, myself, I want to say we'll get a pennant this year. I want to say that. Bar injuries.
Right.
Because that's the key.
Good point.
With everything being in place and no injuries, I think we are the quietest storm that could possibly happen this year.
I would have to add a friendly amendment to my prediction as well. The injury piece is going to be key. Last year, our bullpen and our pitching staff was really the backbone of the ball club. We've already had in training camp and even coming into the season some significant injuries to some of our relief staff. So hopefully we can get to 90, 95 wins and we can get healthy. If healthy, I think we can cross the century mark in victories, because the team in that run that we did last year was so, fabulous, and it was such an organic feeling. And to come one game shy of the World Series, I think the players really believe that they should have made the World Series last year, and the hunger has not waned at all. So this is another kick at the cat that I think they'll take full advantage of with support of the entire city.
Awesome. Well, listen, thank you again for tuning in to Into His Courts, another amazing show. Catch us every Tuesday night at 7, from 7 to 7:30, right here at Joy 1340 AM, also 98.7 FM. Until next week, we'll see you. Also catch us on Facebook and on the YouTube channel, Into His Courts. Until next week, have an amazing week. Peace.